Seriously, promise me that if you ever meet my mother, this night never existed. I was very, I do this all the time, and that's why I have to do this. I was very sheltered sexually growing up. My mother and father slipped a pillow under their door when they were having sex, and my mother would always take a bath afterwards. And once when I leaned my ear against the door, I didn't hear anything except the bed squeak just once. And so I really grew up thinking sex was dirty and boring. And I asked my mother what she thought. She said she was very clinical in her descriptions, and she actually said that sexual intercourse was only between married people, and for me, only between people who were Jewish. I wanted the passion and excitement that I saw in the movies, that I read in the books, that I saw in the school hallways, that I saw behind the railroad tracks, the old barn, in my dorm bathroom. I mean, I wanted all of that. And I was 24 before I realized that God wouldn't smite me if I had sex. My mother herself had had a nervous breakdown in her early 20s. And then she married my dad, getting engaged after knowing him for just 6 weeks. My aunt and grandmother always suggested something dramatic had happened, but they would never tell me. So imagine that she freaked out after her boyfriend tried to hold her hand with his penis. I mean, because my mother was a virgin when she married my dad, so my imagination just couldn't imagine what to do. And then my dad told me that he had to go into therapy in his early 20s after marrying my mother because he had become impotent. And I thought, oh my God, my mother, what did she do to him? And then I said, Daddy, don't ever tell me that again. It's not helping me. And so I thought to myself, what have I inherited? I never thought that sex ever sounded like fun. And that led to a growing fear of the raging hormones in my body through my teen years and after. In fact, I was always scared of boys growing up. They always wanted to take me for drives, go for long walks behind the barn. And I'd go to my mother for advice, and she would say, Rebecca, don't be frigid. I had to go look that word up. Oh my God. Oh, right, me? Thank you. And then she would follow with her famous catchphrase, keep the faith. So, I've been keeping the faith for a long time, and after years of therapy, I realized that I can control and I can kill my mother in my mind. And needless to say, I was a very late bloomer. I didn't mean that I didn't have a lot of sexual desires. I was just too shy to do anything about it. But I read all these romantic novels, and with the bare-chested Fabios and the damsels with plunging necklines and burning loins. And so my first kiss was with Romeo, and I was to Juliet. And it was rehearsal for our school play. That was my first kiss. And my director kept on making me do it again and again until he believed it. And I never had been more mortified or turned on at the same time. But my Romeo and I were just characters. And even though I had a crush on him, and then Benvolio, Mercutio, Paris, the nurse, nothing ever materialized on my crushes from high school through college. Though in college I did learn that liquor helped take down my walls, but the guys wanted to take down more than my walls, and so that led to a lot of problems, and they would move on to other girls who would do more than just kiss with their tongues. So flash forward 20 years to age 44. By then, after years of therapy and medication, I had had several relationships and managed, thank God, to move 2,073.3 miles away from my mother. That year that I turned 44, I decided to go on a liquid diet. And my liquid of choice was tequila. And matched that with the medication I began taking that has no sexual side effects. This medication that I'm taking is for people with traumatic stress, primarily soldiers. And I figured that I've gone through wars in my life, so I can take it. And you know what? The world opened up to me. I looked around at all the men, and I thought, oh my God, what have I missed? So on the morning of my 44th birthday, I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and go on a 2-week sabbatical. I gave myself permission to have sex for the sake of having sex for 1 year and to explore sex throughout the different decades. No, I did not dress up as a hippie or a flapper. I decided to have sex with a guy from every age group. I eliminated teenagers because I didn't want to have any lawsuits. And so my rule for the younger ones was I couldn't know them, which is what most people in their 20s do, right? And I was going to have one-night stands and not ever see them again. So I thought I'd tell you about one of them. The problem is I can't remember his name. And so we'll call him Tyson. Because just like his name suggested, he was a tall black model. I mean, seriously, he was a 29-year-old model. And I saw him in my courtyard as he was visiting a neighbor, and my heart dropped. And so when he was there again, a few weeks later, playing his guitar, I offered him several shots of tequila, and within 30 minutes, we were having sex on my sofa. I've never told anybody other than my therapist this, but so I have never felt such a body. I mean, gorgeous biceps, true washboard abs. His character was from one of my novels. But when we were done, I was done. There was no odd cuddling or exchange of numbers. You know, I escorted him to the door and sent him on his way. And I did pick up a couple more guys in their 20s because what they lacked in conversation and intelligence, they made up for in bed. But within a couple months, I decided to graduate to my 30s. I still held on to my belief that I couldn't know them because I trained teachers, and many of them are gorgeous guys in their 30s, and I was being a player. So I met a guy on a beach. After flashing him my bottle of tequila, Barbara, keep your mouth shut for a while. She was there. He invited me to come to his tent, and no, he wasn't homeless. We were in a group of singles. We were in a singles outing, and so while I said no to his tent, I said yes to a game of strip twister on the beach. So I can't remember another time I laughed so much while shedding clothes in public. I lost the game, but I certainly won several times later that night. Guys in their 30s are easy pickings, so I stayed there for a while. And I dabbled with the 50s. And I understand that women, like models go for the Hugh Hefners, but I figured that 60 or 50 to 70-year-old balls were 50 to 70-year-old balls, and, that was enough. And so, but the nice thing about guys in their 50s is that they know what they're doing, but the problem with them is they kept on calling and calling. So my preference is my own age group. And finding 40-something men to date is really easy because they're everywhere. They're never married bachelors, and I wouldn't do them for one-night stands because typically they're a little bit selfish or not for that. The ones who've been married, the newly divorced, now they're ideal because they've been trapped for years and now they're free to go out and play. And they've been trained to please. So for one party, I dressed up as a Catholic schoolgirl. It was Halloween. Yeah. I was drunk out of my mind, and I met a guy dressed as a hippie. I thought, oh my God, it was going to be another hookup. So I didn't even give him my name. I told him I was a Jewish Catholic schoolgirl. And that's the name he put into his phone. So when he called me to ask me out because he had a cold that night, he didn't even know my name. So I agreed to meet him the following week, and within an hour we were having sex in a parking lot, my car, on a sofa, and then in my bed for 2 years. So I want to give you, there's several pluses from going on a sexual walkabout. I gained a tremendous amount of confidence. I've had sex with more men than my mother. I have learned about homeopathic remedies like cranberry pills and acidophilus. I had my gynecologist on speed dial, and she would laugh every time I called. I have learned how to recover from rug burns and tequila hangovers. And I've learned that I would never need to go out on a blind date again or be fixed up because I can find guys on my own. I got my groove. Not back, I got it. But there are two huge consequences. I can never tell any of the men I date this story. And I get random texts from men that I have no idea who they are or what decade they represent. I got one last week. It just said, hey, Rebecca, party later. And I can find an address. Or I get ones that say right hand on red. And And the thing is, I keep on thinking of my mother's words, keep the faith. Oh, I don't need to do that anymore. Thank you.